July of 1947, there was a crash of a spacecraft in around Corona in New Mexico.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring a powerful book. It is called Glimpses into Other Worlds, and it's written by a terrific author. Her name is Kristy Shanahan. It is a fascinating blend of science, spirituality, ancient myth, and cosmic mystery. This eye-opening book draws from NASA images, eyewitness UFO reports, ancient traditions, and quantum physics to expand our understanding of reality. If you've ever wondered about other dimensions, extraterrestrial life, or humanity's spiritual connection to the universe, this is a journey you don't want to miss. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at King Pages Press for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Kristy, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's great to have you on the show. This is such a fascinating book about topics that people like myself really don't know all that much about. When you talk about other worlds, are you talking about physical places or dimensions of consciousness, or perhaps even both?
Both. The extraterrestrial world is a physical place. The ultra terrestrial world of other dimensions, people don't really understand it that well. There's not as much known about it. So I would say you can't really say that's a physical place at this time. I have to tell you, I'm not a physicist. I have a science degree, but it's in life sciences, not in physics. But I thought the topics were important for people to know about. So I put a basic level of those topics in the book.
Yeah, well, you did a great job with this book, no doubt. It is fascinating and a real page turner. What are some of the most compelling UFO reports that you included in the book?
Well, the classic is the Roswell story, and that's kind of how I got hooked into this, was via the Roswell, going to Roswell and getting immersed in the story. Yeah. So, that's probably the classic one. But
we
there's
hear
so
about
many.
Roswell. What happened in Roswell? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, in July of 1947, there was a crash of a spacecraft in around Corona in New Mexico, and one of the ranchers discovered debris and brought it into town, and people from the Air Force Base went out and investigated and came back with material from the crash. And it was an odd metal that they could crumple it up and it would go back to its original shape. So they thought they found it really different. And they set out to investigate, and they found a wrecked ship. And actually, they Army Air Base put it in the local paper. I have a copy of the paper. Can you see it? Okay.
Yep. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was on July 8th. That was put in the paper. And so they, likely really happened.
Yeah.
But the government, I don't believe, wanted it to be out in the public. And so they took Jesse Marcel, who was the man that went out and found the debris. They took him and put him on TV and took away the proper debris that he found and gave him a weather balloon and set up the story that it was a weather balloon.
Wow.
And yeah, and they swore those guys to silence. Um, People need to understand too in this story who those people were. They weren't
Mm.
just army guys. They were guys that flew the missions of the Enola Gay. So they were like really honorable men. I mean, it's
Mm.
not, they don't pick, goof offs for
Right,
those kinds of
exactly.
jobs,
Yeah, these are very
you know.
credible people that
Yes,
gave those reports. Yeah, wonderful.
yes.
Let's talk a little bit about ancient mythology and how it supports the idea of beings from other realms.
Um, well, there are so many reports in history. That's another thing that makes it compelling is that I only gave you like a few in the book. I didn't give you that many, but there's hundreds of reports of alien visitations, even from ancient times all the way up to modern times. They say there's probably an increase in reports around the late 1940s and 50s. But I mean, I don't think they have official documents from the past about it. So, and I'm
Yeah,
sure it was kind of frowned upon by certain governments even in the past. So,
yeah,
so they don't have statistics or anything, but people have reported these sightings forever.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
even in the Bible.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
So,
What role do NASA images play in your research and storytelling of this book? What do they show,
well,
the NASA images?
Well, I wanted to talk about these alien encounters, the UFOs and stuff, but I also wanted to introduce people to the places where these may come from,
Mm.
like the universe. In the Bible they refer to it as the heavens or the skies, but we refer to it now as the universe or the cosmos. But that's one place that they might have come from, for example, and then other dimensions. And also, I wrote about the spiritual realm in the book. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you find any similarities between prophets and scientists when discussing consciousness?
uh, I don't know as the prophets discussed consciousness so much. Um, uh, Theorists and metaphysics. Famous people like Plato and Aristotle and stuff like that. They talked about things like that. But what's interesting is that now in like popular mechanics and a lot of science journals, you'll find a lot of articles now by scientists linking, um, the human mind to the universal consciousness. And they say that that occurs via quantum mechanics, via quantum entanglement, where two particles that are very similar can be in contact, even through huge distances and across space. So it's sort of interesting that science is coming around to it now
Yeah,
to,
and even our government is coming around to it a little bit now. I mean, they're supposedly talking more openly about UFOs and sharing evidence.
yes.
So I think it's becoming mainstream, which is interesting. What do you hope readers take away from the UFO reports and testimonies that you included in your book?
I would say when you think about the stories, listen to what the witnesses say, because that's what convinced me was their stories,
Mm.
because they were, even though the children of these people didn't know each other, when they talk about Roswell, they all said the same things, so you could tell it really happened that way. It really, you know, even the words they used were the same, like they're from their parents, from their dad or whatever. And so, you can kind of tell it's real from
Yeah.
the witnesses.
Right, the consistency in their testimony kind of points to the fact that this really happened and it wasn't a weather balloon, as we were
That's
later told. Yeah,
that's
amazing.
that's
That
how I
headline
felt.
says it all. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I
amazing.
felt.
What do you think is the most surprising or controversial idea in your book that people, when they see it or read it, will be like, wow, I can't believe that.
Well, something that I hope people will be open to is learning about other cultures, because when you talk about religion, everybody's got such different ideas. But
Hmm.
actually, if you look at the ideas, a lot of times they're very similar. So I'm hoping that they can see the universal truths.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And how long have you worked on this book? Tell us a little bit about the research that went into it.
The hardest part was finding all those pictures.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pictures, and that's quite a search. But I'm
Mhm.
so lucky that I used Wikimedia and I used Pickrel. Those are public domain image
Mhm.
search engines, and NASA also a lot of their pictures, and some pictures from Adobe that I got through subscribing to Adobe. So I did have to pay for those, and some from people that let me use their images, but I had to write for permission. But I'm so thankful to have those. That actually was the most time consuming
I'm
part.
sure. I'm
It's
sure.
almost like I was like consumed with writing it, so I wrote fast.
Great. Well, that's awesome. In your
Yeah.
own vision, what lies beyond what we currently see or understand? What do you think is in those other realms of existence that we haven't been able to tap into yet?
Oh gosh, the possibilities are
Yeah.
unbelievable. It could be that heaven is there in another dimension.
Mm.
The what is it? The Celtic Christians, I think, they
Mhm.
say heaven is 3 feet higher than the ground.
Wow.
So it's in some places it's thinner, they say. So, who knows? If and plus in my book there's a part that talks about the science behind the idea that death is a you're going into another dimension, because it's like entering a portal. You know how with the near-death experiences, people
Yeah.
describe them as going into a tunnel. That's the portal, and then they go into another dimension.
Yeah.
So that's a scientific article was written like that, that they think that death is actually a process like moving into another dimension. So
Yeah.
I thought,
Well, that's a story we hear time and time again from people who've had near-death experiences that they saw a light, that they were beckoned forward. They had to make a decision whether they would go forward into the light or come back into their own earthly existence. And you hear it time and time again from all types of people. So, like you said, when there's a lot of consistent testimony, you have to start accepting it, right?
right, at least listen to it, hear it out. That too often people are discouraged because, like with aliens, the government's telling them it's not real, it's not real. And, so you got to kind of filter all that. And a lot of times too, religion says it's wrong to believe that or something. And then
Right.
people kind of change their thoughts, so
With
kind
all
of
the
keep it
plant,
open.
with all the stars out there, with all the planets out there, I think it's egotistical to think just one planet is inhabited with living creatures. It only makes
Yeah.
sense that other planets would too. I mean, just
Yes.
by a numbers game, you're not going to just have one aberrant planet with life. There's got to be other planets out there. It's as
Yes,
simple as
you're
that,
right.
and perhaps much more advanced than we are.
That's right. By the
Yeah,
numbers, I see your point.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Edgar Casey felt that the um, Arcturian system of stars, that they had the highest life forms.
Yeah.
Um, that they had life, and that it was the higher than us. They were more civilized, more advanced.
Yeah. And they might not even have, a physical body. It might just be spiritual existence as well. There's so much we don't know, but anything you can imagine probably is true. The name of the book, Glimpses into Other Worlds, it invites us to imagine boldly, explore deeply, and question everything we thought we knew. Kristy, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and all the hard work you did on putting together this fantastic book. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time. Until next time, on Spotlight.